back to another vlog. So this wasn't actually our first time in Taiwan, and yet we still decided to come back for a full 7 days. And every time we tell people that, they are like, wait, 7 days in Taiwan? Isn't that kind of long? But honestly, Taiwan is one of those places that feels different every single time we visit. Some parts are changing really quickly. New cafes, new buildings, new trendy spots everywhere. But at the same time, there are things that still feel exactly the same. The sound of scooters everywhere, tiny breakfast shops opening early in the morning, busy night market, people relaxing in parks late at night. Taiwan just has this atmosphere that keeps pulling us back. So this time, we decided to slow down a little and really enjoy it. We traveled from Kaohsiung to Chiayi and Taipei, exploring not just the famous tourist spots, but also the everyday side of Taiwan. The food, the culture, the history, the tea, the local street, and honestly, just the little moments in between. Some days were super packed with plans, and other days we just wandered around with no destination at all. And somehow those ended up being our favorite memories. So yay! In this vlog, we are taking you along on our entire 7 days Taiwan journey. And hopefully by end of this video, you'll understand why we think Taiwan is a place you can keep coming back to over and over again. Alright, let's start the trip. We have arrived at Kaohsiung Airport. We finally arrived at Kaohsiung International Airport, and one of the first things we noticed was how convenient and developed everything felt. There were familiar stores like Family Mart and Starbucks around the airport. So even right after arriving, it already felt really easy to navigate. Getting into the city was also super simple since the MRT connects directly to the airport. And for internet, we had already set up an eSIM in Japan before the trip, so we could use data pretty much immediately after landing, which made everything a lot smoother. One thing we really liked about Taiwan's MRT subway is how easy it is to use. You can actually just tap your Visa card at the gate, so we barely needed to buy a ticket during the trip. But something that surprised us was how strict the no eating and drinking rule is on the MRT. Even casually drinking water on the train can lead to the fine. At first, it felt a little strict, but after spending more time in Taiwan, it started to make sense. Taiwan is really hot and humid for a lot of years, so if people were constantly eating and drinking on the train, the smell and cleanness would probably become a much bigger issue. And honestly, the MRT felt incredibly clean, quiet, and organized the entire time we were there, so the rule actually seems to work pretty well. One interesting thing we heard from a local friend was that they actually don't use the MRT very often for commuting. Apparently, compared to Taipei, the trains in Kaohsiung don't run as late as night, and the frequency can feel a bit lower, especially outside peak hours. So a lot of people still prefer using scooters or driving instead. And honestly, after arriving here, that kind of started to make sense. The city feels much more spread out and car and scooter friendly compared to Taipei. But as travelers, we still found that MRT really clean, convenient, and easy to use for getting around the main part of the city. So while we were traveling in Taiwan, we came across a place called Okayama, written with the exact same character as Okayama in Japan. And there's actually a historical reason for that. Taiwan was under Japanese rule from 1895 to 1945, and during that time, many places were renamed using Japanese-style names and systems. Some areas were even developed by Japanese engineers and planners, which is why you can still find traces of Japan in Taiwan today. Not just in architecture and train culture, but even in place names. What's interesting is that even after all these years, some of those names and historical influences still remain, becoming part of Taiwan's unique mix of cultures and history. And after that, we finally arrived in Kaohsiung. Kaohsiung is the largest city in southern Taiwan, and compared to Taipei, the atmosphere immediately feels more relaxed, more open, and a little slower in pace. The weather is warmer, there are more wide streets and waterfront areas, and overall, the city feels less crowded and less hectic than the capital. Historically, Kaohsiung became an important harbor city during the Japanese colonial period, and because of its location in the south, it developed into one of Taiwan's major industrial and shipping centers. Even today, the port of Kaohsiung is still one of the busiest ports in the world. But what makes the city really interesting now is how much it has transformed over the years. A lot of former industrial areas, waterhouses, and dock spaces have been redesigned into creative parks and art center, cafes, music venue, and walking area along the water. So the city was this really unique mix of old and new. Heavy industry and modern art, traditional local food, and trendy cafes, busy port life, and surprisingly peaceful neighborhood. Compared to Taipei, Kaohsiung also feels a bit more local and less rushed, which made us want to slow down and explore the city more casually instead of trying to check off tourist spots one after another. And honestly, from the moment we got there, it already felt like a completely different side of Taiwan. And for this trip, we stayed at the Kaohsiung Marriott Hotel. We actually use American Express points pretty often when we travel, so we are able to stay at a hotel like this for much cheaper than paying the normal price. It's honestly one of our favorite travel hacks, especially for a longer trip like this. So if you are curious about how we use points for travel or want an Amex referral code, feel free to DM me and I can share more about it. Our room was super spacious and really comfortable. One thing we noticed though, and we are actually not sure if this is common in Taiwan or just at this hotel, is that the bathtub and shower were completely separate. The shower had its own room and then the bathtub was in different space, which honestly made the bathroom feel really luxurious and relaxing. So if you are from Taiwan, let us know in the comments. Is this a Taiwan thing or just a fancy hotel thing? One of the nice things about staying here was getting access to the hotel lounge. Usually, lounge access is either included with certain room types, hotel membership status, or available for an extra fee. But in our case, we were able to access it through American Express travel benefits without paying additional charges. And honestly, the lounge was much better than we expected. During happy hour, they served wine, beer, cocktails, and other drinks. But what surprised us most was the food. They called them light snacks, but it honestly felt more like a full dinner buffet. There were hot dishes, local Taiwanese food, dessert, salad, and plenty of options to make a full meal. After walking around all day, it was actually really nice to come back, relax, enjoy the view, and have dinner there instead of going back out again. Moments like this are honestly why we enjoy using travel points and hotel benefits when we travel, because it can make the whole experience feel much more comfortable without dramatically increasing the cost of the trip. It's time for a little night walk around Kaohsiung. One thing we noticed right away is how wide and clean the streets are here. Compared to some bigger cities in Asia, it feels much less crowded, so walking around at night is actually really comfortable and relaxing. As we walked around, we also noticed all kinds of different international shops nearby. Beauty clinics, cafes, and even Korean convenience stores like CU, which we definitely weren't expecting to see in Taiwan. It's interesting because Kaohsiung feels very Taiwanese, but at the same time, you can also feel influences from different countries around the city. Another thing we like is that Kaohsiung has a tram system running through the city. So if you get tired from walking, you can just hop on the tram and slowly explore different areas that way. The tram itself also gives the cities a slightly different atmosphere compared to Taipei. It feels a bit slower and more relaxed here. And even though it's already nighttime in April, it's still around 27 degrees Celsius right now. So honestly, it feels pretty warm and humid. Coming from Taiwan, it almost already feels like summer. Right now, we are heading to the MRT station because we are about to go check out one of Kaohsiung's famous night markets. Honestly, one of the things we were most excited for in Taiwan was the night market culture, so we are already looking forward to seeing what the atmosphere is like here at night. One small thing that kept confusing us in Taiwan was the escalator etiquette. Coming from Japan, especially the Tokyo area where people usually stand on the left side, it felt strange at first because in Taiwan, people traditionally stand on the right side instead. But apparently, newer safety campaigns are now encouraging people to stand on both sides instead of walking on the escalator at all. So honestly, the safest strategy seems to be just looking at what the people in front of you are doing and following the flow. We just arrived at Formosa Boulevard Station, and honestly, this feels less like a subway station and more like an underground art museum. The station is famous for its huge dome of lights installation, and it's often ranked as one of the most beautiful metro stations in the world. But what's interesting is that this area is also connected to important moments in Taiwan's modern history. Near here is the site related to Kaohsiung incident of 1979, which became a major turning point in Taiwan's democratization movement during the martial law era. And when learning about Taiwan's history, events like this era often discussed alongside the February 28 incident, also known as the 228 incident, which had a huge impact on modern Taiwanese society. So even while just taking the MRT, you can really feel how history, politics, art, and everyday life all connect together here in Taiwan. After exploring around the station, we headed to Liuhe Night Market for dinner. Before coming to Kaohsiung, we actually asked some local friends which night market they usually recommend. And interestingly, a lot of them mentioned Lingya Ziqiang Night Market instead of Liuhe. From what we heard, Liuhe is a bit more popular with tourists, while Lingya Ziqiang is considered more local. Originally, we wanted to check out Lingya Zijiang too, but apparently it's closed on Wednesdays, which happened to be the day we arrived, so we decided to come to Liuhe instead. And honestly, we still really enjoy it. Sometimes famous tourist spots can feel overcrowded or overly commercialized, but Liuhe actually felt pretty comfortable to walk around. It was lively and energetic without being too overwhelming. There were seafood stalls, grilled meat, fried snacks, fruit stand, bubble tea shops, and people everywhere just casually eating and hanging out late into the night. One thing we always love about Taiwan is how alive and the cities feel at night. Even on normal weekday, there are still so many people outside enjoying the evening. So even if this might be considered a more tourist-friendly night market, we still thought it was a really fun introduction to Kaohsiung night market culture. But if you are from Taiwan, let us know in the comment which night market would you recommend the most. One thing that surprised us in Taiwan was how different the convenience store felt compared to Japan. Even though stores like 7-Eleven exist in both countries, in Taiwan, some 7-Elevens has huge sitting areas where people were eating, studying, or just hanging out. And we even found beautiful catcher machine inside, which we definitely weren't expecting. They also sell things like tea eggs, which are eggs slowly cooked in soy sauce and tea, and you can smell them the moment you walk into the store. It's interesting because the convenience store feels less like just a quick stop and more like part of everyday social life here. With Taiwan's hot and humid weather, getting a bubble tea here honestly feels almost mandatory. Bubble tea actually originated in Taiwan, so you'll find tea shops everywhere, from famous chains to tiny local stores. And there are so many different types that choosing what to order can be surprisingly difficult. Prices were usually around 80 to 150 Taiwanese dollars depending on the size, and toppings, which is roughly around 400 to 700 Japanese yen or around 2.5 to 5 US dollars. This time, we wanted to try something more tea focused instead of super sweet dessert style drinks. But there were so many options on the menu that we were completely lost. Actually, the woman working there noticed us struggling and started recommending popular drinks and explaining, which was honestly really kind. One thing we kept noticing at same tea shops was big decorations and little big statues everywhere. And we were genuinely confused about why pigs seems to be the part of the brownie. We still don't fully know the answer. But honestly, drinking fresh tea while walking around Taiwan at night somehow became one of the small experiences that made this trip feel really special. One thing we really liked about getting bubble tea in Taiwan is how the drinks are sealed. Instead of using a normal plastic lid like in many other countries, a lot of Taiwanese tea shops actually seal the entire top of the cup with a plastic film. Then they poke the straw through when you are ready to drink it. It's such a simple idea, but it honestly makes walking around with drinks so much easier because you are way less likely to spill everything while carrying it through busy streets or night markets. And once you notice it, you realize just how optimized Taiwanese bubble tea culture really is. After walking around with our bubble tea, we eventually ended up at the local noodle restaurant. And one thing that's very interesting about Taiwan is just how many different types of noodles there are. At first, we honestly thought noodles here would all be pretty similar, but once you started looking at menu, you realize Taiwan has a huge variety of noodle style with completely different texture and ingredients. For example, one common type is called yeoman or oil noodle. These are probably the closest to Japanese ramen noodles. There are yellow wheat noodles made with alkaline water which gives them that slightly chewy texture and smooth bite. After boiling, the noodles are coated lightly with oil, which is actually where the name comes from. They are very easy to eat and work well with both soup and dry-style dishes. What surprised us though was that one of the dishes using this noodle came with eel. And as Japanese people, that was honestly shocking because in Japan, eel is usually considered a pretty luxurious food that you might eat for a special occasion. So seeing eel casually served with noodles felt really unexpected. Another noodle we learned about is called yimyang. This one is completely different. Instead of using a lot of water in the dough, the noodles are made with lots of eggs, sometimes chicken eggs or even duck eggs, which gives the noodles a rich flavor and beautiful golden color. The noodles are flatter and curlier, with a really soft and chewy texture that absorbs soups incredibly well. You can eat them in soup mixed with sauce as dry noodles or even fried and simmered in dishes like Kaohsiung yimyang, which is especially popular in southern Taiwan around Tainan. Compared to Japanese noodles, the egg flavor felt much stronger and richer. And then there's mifian, or rice noodles, which are made from rice instead of wheat. These have a lighter texture and feel completely different again. So even though everything just gets translated as noodles, the Taiwan's noodle culture is actually incredibly diverse. The more we travel around, the more we realized how regional and deep Taiwanese food culture really is. One thing we kept noticing in Taiwan was restaurant and food stores advertising things as Japanese style. But honestly, a lot of the food looked completely different from what we normally see in Japan. We actually made it really fun. Some dishes clearly started with Japanese influence, but then it evolved into something uniquely Taiwanese over time. For example, we saw giant grilled squid being sold as a Japanese-style snack, and we are pretty sure it's inspired by Japanese ikayaki. But in Japan, it's usually much smaller and simpler. So seeing these huge, heavily seasoned versions honestly surprised us. It almost feels like certain Japanese food came to Taiwan and then evolved into their own entirely new style here. And honestly, that mix of familiar and unfamiliar was one of the most interesting parts of exploring food in Taiwan. While walking through the night market, one thing that really caught our attention was how many people were playing simple arcade-style games like pinball and coin games. It wasn't just kids, adults were joining too, which made the whole scene feel really fun and relaxed. There was this interesting mix of modern city life and a slightly nostalgic retro atmosphere, almost like a snapshot of Japan from a few decades ago. New shops, neon lights, and food stores were everywhere, but these old school games were still a big part of the experience. The contrast between past and present is something we kept feeling a lot while walking around Taiwan, and it gives the streets a very unique charm. We went to a small local dumpling place where everything is handmade. One interesting thing is that you don't order by number of dumplings, you actually order by weight in grams. So instead of saying, I want 10 dumplings, you just decide how many grams you want, which felt really different from what we are used to in Japan. We also had to order dumplings as a set with a bowl of noodle soup, so it wasn't just a single dish. The total came out to just under 1,000 yen, which is roughly around 6 to 7 US dollars. It felt a little pricey for a street food style meal, but maybe that's just normal here in Taiwan. After that, we grabbed some beer from another place nearby, and there was even a promotion like buy 3 get 1 free, which honestly feel like they really know how to do business. One thing we noticed in Taiwan is that while drinking like bubble tea and beer are amazing, not every convenience store has a public restroom, so it's something to keep in mind. Usually, you'll find toilets in MRT stations or larger buildings, so it's good to plan ahead when you are out exploring. But that was the end of our day here in Kaohsiung. Thanks for watching. Thanks so much for watching, and if you have any questions about Taiwan or anything you are curious about, let us know in the comments. We'll see you soon in the next video as our Taiwan trip continues. Bye!